Let's go to the courts now. The Court of Appeal sitting in Akure has affirmed the election of Lucky Aiyedatiwa and Dr. Olayide Adelami as the governor and deputy governor of Ondo State in the November 16, 2024 governorship election. This was sequel to the dismissal of the appeals of some political parties against the judgment of the Ondo State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal of June 4, 2025, which affirmed the election of the All Progressive Congress candidates. Recall that the People's Democratic Party, African Democratic Congress, Allied People's Movement, and Social Development Party had filed appeals against the judgment of the tribunal, asking for the invalidation of the November 16, 2024 governorship election. For this conversation, we have Liborous Oshoma, a legal practitioner and a political analyst. Thank you very much for joining us to share your thoughts on this latest ruling. The Supreme Court had already ruled on Aiyedatiwa's candidacy. The tribunal also ruled on the matter. Was there need for this further appeal?
Yeah, thank you. You'll find out that politicians go to court not necessarily because they believe that they have a case, but to assuage the confidence that their supporters have in them. You know, in Nigeria, once political matters are discussed, reasoning, critical thinking takes flight. So most times you find out that after election, it is typical for politicians to approach the court, because if you do not go to court, the tendency for your supporters to support you in the next election cycle will be very slim, because there's this belief that you refuse to go to court because you have been settled, you have been compromised. Even though these same people will tell you that the court, you know, they don't have faith in the court, but they still want you to go to court. So that's basically what we see, you know, over time. And that's why, like you rightly noted, the courts, the tribunals, Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court consistently keep ruling on the same issue, keep ruling on the same matter, repeating the same precedent. And yet, every election, you hear that, you know, politicians will want to approach the court. They'll tell you they'll go to court to claim their mandate. And in some cases, when they are telling people that they want to claim their mandate in the public space and in social media, they get to court, they're asking for different prayers altogether. So basically, I think that the reason why they go to court is because they just want to, you know, keep that confidence that their supporters have in them burning. Quickly, I would point you to Section 137 of the Electoral Act. You know, there's this belief that Section 137 has completely eliminated, you know, the need for oral evidence, which is what had happened in this case, also happened in the case of Edo, happened in the case of Ondo, you know. But Section 137 only permits, you know, the use of oral documentary evidence, you know, if the documentary evidence points conclusively to the non-compliance. The moment the documentary evidence is not able to establish, you know, conclusively the issue of non-compliance, Section 137 cannot avail the petitioner. That is the position of the Supreme Court. You still need to call oral evidence. And like I had said, 6 months is not enough for you to prove election irregularity in an entire state, especially when you are claiming, you know, irregularity in more than, you know, in some cases, 500 polling units.
Electoral laws or precedents for the Ondo State people, if any?
I didn't get your question.
I'm asking what does this ruling add to perhaps the electoral process or setting of precedents for the electoral process in the locality?
Yeah, nothing. What the ruling just had done, this judgment had reiterated and regurgitated, you know, the precedent has already been set by, you know, the courts, the higher courts, that electoral matters for irregularities, You don't just come allege irregularities and then, you know, expect the court to go, you know, do your job. And that in some cases, the court will say that you have dumped materials on them. Even if you read the judgment of the courts, some of the petitions were claimed to have been abandoned because, you know, there were no enough witness to substantiate the allegation, you know, pleaded therein. So there's nothing new for you know, the people. What had just been said is what the court had consistently said. So what we should do, if we truly do not believe, you know, in the ballot, then we should tinker with our electoral system, electoral acts, to ensure that the issue of electronic transmission of results is real-time. The issue of collation and manipulation of votes is eliminated, so as, you know, to give more confidence to the process. But unfortunately, unfortunately, we are not even discussing in that direction, where people are agitating for amendment of the Electoral Act and electoral reforms. You know, the National Assembly seems not to be bothered. And quickly, I must say this. You find out that now, the APC as a political party, the new chairman of the APC as a political party, was a former resident electoral commissioner in Benue State from 2017 to 2022. And also, he's a professor of electrical engineering, major in ICT. What does that tell you? And you're going into an election with APC, whose chairman was a member of the electoral body, who definitely would have, you know, information as regards electoral.
But he will swear oaths. He won't swear oaths, and he will do his best, I hope, not to sabotage the legal process. But let's stay on course. Let's stay on course and take a look at, you know, some of the court rulings that we have on this case. You've clearly stated in your submission that some of these cases are really not necessary. And then it begs the question, why do lawyers in your profession not advise their clients against pursuing cases that are most likely to end in futility? Isn't it a waste of judicial process? I mean, time that could have been expended on adjudicating on cases that are more important will be spent on these.
Yeah, quickly, before I go into this, I must still say this, even though you want us to stay on course. But I am saying it because I might not be opportune to say it again. Once somebody has occupied the office of an umpire, it's a moral body, even though there's nothing in the law that says you cannot become a member of a political party. It becomes a moral burden for you to still occupy the position of a chairman of a political party. But that said, the politicians in Nigeria, nobody advised them. In some cases, the politicians is the one that will tell you what he wants. That it is for you as a lawyer, you want money, they were ready to pay you, go to court, this is what they want to achieve. But also, until the bar and the bench begins to sanction lawyers for bringing frivolous application, we're going to consistently have, you know, such frivolous petitions like that, where lawyers will, all they do is to satisfy the whims and caprices of their clients, the politicians, because you can't reject brief. And so the politicians want you to go to court because they believe they want to assuage, you know, the demands of their electorate, of their supporters, because if they don't go to court, the supporters will not support them next time, and then they need a lawyer to do that. And then you can't say you won't do it. Okay. But if there is a sanction, you know as a lawyer that you'll be sanctioned for bringing a frivolous petition, certainly you wouldn't want to risk your certificate.
Okay, I guess the ball is in your court in that one. But I wasn't stopping that conversation. I just wanted us to conclude one. To go back to your comment, it's pertinent that the public understand some of these things. You say that the new chairman of the APC, national chairman, used to be a wreck. He does not have a legal obligation, but a moral obligation to perhaps not take that position. I want you to speak a little more on that. And also, is there a precedence to a former wreck becoming a national chairman or chairman of a political party, and what played out with that?
Yeah, there are a lot of, you know, for you to become a chairman of INEC and even a resident electoral commissioner, the law says that you must be persons of unquestionable character. You must also not be partisan. But we've seen situations where even people who are politicians, people who are partisans, are nominated to become resident electoral commissioner. The case of, what do you call it, what's this lady that was special advisor to Buhari, you know, it's still fresh in our memory, and it was rejected. We've also seen cases where some persons are nominated as resident electoral commissioners, and they are rejected at this, during screening. But also, we saw Jega, who was a former INEC chairman, who left as INEC chairman and went to join, you know, I think was in the SDP now, but he didn't really go far. But what I am saying here is that as an electoral umpire, there are some, what do you call it, information that you will be privileged to. There are some internal workings of the election or electoral umpire that you'll be privy to, that ordinarily, even when you leave, those information should die with you. That's why in some cases we say you sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. So, but a situation where we are saying that as politicians you should not occupy the office of an electoral umpire. But what happens when you leave the office of electoral umpire, you go back into politics? Those information, those secrets that you have garnered from the electoral umpire, the office of the electoral umpire, are you not going to use them to the advantage of a political party, especially when that political party is a ruling party and is going to play, you know, with other political parties? So that's why I say it's a moral burden. And if we are amending our electoral act, all of these are issues that also the, what do you call it, National Assembly should look into in amending the act, so that people don't just get nominated to become resident electoral commissioners or chairmen, and then they gather information to the benefit and advantage of their party, and then they resign or they leave that position, and then move into the political party, and then use those information and the advantage. I guess we do the relationship that they have with that body to the disadvantage of other political parties.
We do have a lot of issues to address when it comes to our election. I'm sorry, we're really out of time. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're really out of time for this conversation. But thank you, as always, for
playing field for all political parties. That's what I'm saying is really no personal issues.